catch yourself wondering, why would anyone hire me when there are people who do what I do, but with a million followers? It's a dangerous question because it shifts your focus in your mind from where it should be, and that's on your audience and your performance. Now, imagine if there was a way to stop comparing yourself to everyone else's highlight reel and start recognizing the value only you can bring to an audience. Well, we've got someone who spent decades helping leaders discover their own unique strengths and lead with authenticity. You ready? Let's go. Today's guest, Dedra Thompson, is a leadership strategist with 20 plus years developing stronger leaders. She's a passionate advocate for authentic leadership and curiosity. And she believes the phrase, tell me more, changes conversations, which you're not going to get an argument from me because that's a great open probe. Welcome to the show, Dedra. Pleasure to have you here.
It's great to be here today, Rob.
Well, I'm loving this topic. So I want to start right there. Why do you
Yeah,
think so many presenters and leaders for that matter fall into the trap of comparing themselves to people with these massive online followers? And you're not only talking to the audience, you're talking to Rob on this one. So talk me off this ledge.
well, I'm talking to myself too, Rob. I think we look at social media, we look at YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and all these people have all these followers, and there's all these phenomenal clips out there, Brene Brown and Simon Sinek, and it's really easy to compare yourself to those folks. And we talk a lot about imposter syndrome, and I feel like imposter syndrome is someone standing there going, am I a fraud? Is everybody going to figure out I have no idea what I'm doing? But this is more of that expert comparison syndrome, I like to call it. That's not official, that's just me. Because we look at all these other people and what they're doing and wonder, why would somebody bring me in? Would anybody care what I have to say? Because I don't have all those followers and I've never done a TED talk. So I feel like social media and those pressures really take its toll.
Yeah. I love that. What did you say? Expert comparison syndrome? Is that
Yeah,
it?
that's my just sitting around thinking about this.
Well, I think you should sit around and trademark that because I think that's pretty powerful and it says it all. We do. I remembered even with my children, when they're first getting into Facebook and how many friends do you have and how many friends do I have? And I think it follows us right into our professional career. That's why I think this is a really important topic. So you're right. It's not that I'm an imposter. But if I'm such a big shot, how come I've got, this X amount of YouTube followers?
Right,
Right.
right.
Right. It drives me up a wall. So, all right. Well, now that we know what it looks like and what it sounds like, other than I saw a great comedian one time do a whole video of, and he was a therapist, and his answer to everything was, "Okay, well, stop it. Just stop it." Uh, Other than Bob Newhart, by the way, that's who it was. The late great Bob Newhart, great therapist sketch. Other than stop it, any other thoughts here?
Sure. I feel like and I'll just go back to me personally. First of all, let me just say I'm really happy that there wasn't social media when I started out in my career. So you didn't have this comparing yourself to people globally. And so, but I think for me, even as I've built my career and recently stepped out of the corporate world and started consulting, for me, it's tapping into who I am and recognizing that I'm not Simon Sinek, I'm not Brene Brown, I'm Dedra Thompson, and I am unique. I have a story to tell. I have experience. I know what I'm doing. And it's tapping into my own confidence, but also my authenticity. Those folks are already taken. You can't be a Simon Sinek because he is already taken, but you can be uniquely and authentically yourself because you never know who's going to connect with you and with whom your story is going to resonate.
Yeah. And I'm gonna lay my heart right on the table here. I have to tell you, I've been doing this for decades and decades. And my publicist says, stop throwing out how many years you've been doing this, but can I say 40 years? Okay. And I'm mentioning that to tell you that still, when I see something on LinkedIn, and I
Hmm.
just spoke at the Laundromat Association,
Hmm.
I want my heart to sing. I want it to go, good for Larry. And yet I'm thinking, what about me? And why? And I'm putting it out there because if I feel that after 4 decades, I'm just wondering how other people feel coming into this industry.
Right. I, I do the same thing. Of course, being a consultant, being a speaker, we're on LinkedIn all the time. And that's how you and I connected. And you're right, you're seeing these people and you're like, but what call me. But I think for me personally, I look at what I'm hearing from the people I am speaking to, even if it's a room of 15 or 20, if I have made a difference for those folks, if I have made somebody's life a little bit better or made them think about something a little bit different, then that's good for me. That's good enough. I don't have to stand on a TED Talk stage. I mean, it'd be cool one day. Maybe I'll keep my fingers crossed. But just knowing that if I could impact people from where I'm sitting and or where I'm standing or who I'm standing in front of, then that's pretty powerful knowing that you've even impacted 5 people today
Yeah.
or 5 people at that workshop last week. That's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking of a gladiator almost where, he's talking to the trainer of gladiators is just win the day, win the day, win
Yeah.
the audience, and you win your freedom. Uh,
Hmm.
the Washington Nationals uh, manager who's no longer managing, but I used to really love him, Davey Martinez, uh, used to say, go 1-0 every day. Just worry about today. Let's just win today. Leave the
Yep.
laundromat alone, Jollis. Okay. And that speaking gig, just win the day. But
Yeah.
sometimes it's, we almost have to post that because that message sounds great right now. Where's it going to be in an hour? You know?
Yeah. No, I love that. Just when the day I feel like I need to like pace that around my office. But because you're right, a few weeks ago I spoke at a group in Chicago, and it was a small group. But we talked about burnout and resilience and how we can protect ourselves so that we don't burn out. And the team leader who brought me to speak to her group, she messaged me the following week. She sent me a text message and said that people from her team had been telling her that throughout the weekend they had thought about their burnout and the message, and it really resonated with them, and they were going to really lean into how to take better care of themselves. And even though it's a small group, it was 20, 25 people. For me, knowing that something that I said in the 2 hours we spent together had them rethinking how they approach everyday life to take better care of themselves. That was a big win for me, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I mean. We just have to kind of recenter ourselves. Let's talk about that career of yours, stepping
Yeah.
out. As most professional speakers, we're not born professional speakers. We're usually doing something, then we step out, we go into consulting or speaking.
Yeah.
What's something you believed about when you were when you were stepping out to become a great speaker? Something you thought, I got to do that to be a great speaker
Mm,
earlier in your career that you no
yeah.
longer believe now?
Okay. Well, I'll tell you. So I started my career in the late 1900s. So forever ago.
We got to
Uh,
learn how to say that better. That sounds terrible. But well,
No,
back
it's
then, back in the
amazing.
late 1900s, yes. Okay.
It's fantastic. See, that always gets a good laugh from a crowd because they
Right.
they go, oh wow, okay, maybe it wasn't that long ago. So I think one of the things I believed when I was starting my career and I was standing up in front of groups, I thought I had to be so polished and perfect. And I think what I realized, I mean, I'm never going to be the person that shows up in a suit. That's just not my style. I've got this crazy curly hair, and there's just no need to even try and tame it. I have this Southern accent, and that's just not going away either. But I think I felt early on in my career that I had to show up a certain way to be taken seriously. And as a woman, I felt like I needed to show up as a certain way. But what I've realized is that people just want you to show up authentically and they want to hear your stories. And it's okay to not show up in the business suit. I always look professional, but I don't look like I just stepped off the pages of Business Professional Dress Weekly. But it was that idea that I had to be perfect. And I realized that audiences weren't looking for perfect. They were looking for real and they were looking for helpful and they were looking for someone to connect with, no matter what that looked like.
Is that something you figured out once you got to know some of these people from the audience? Did they actually tell you that, or did you just sort of figure that out on your own?
I think I figured it out on my own because I felt the connections.
Right.
When you and Rob, I know that you know this, when you're standing in front of a group of people, you know whether you're connecting with them or not.
Yeah.
You see their eyes following you around the room because I also don't stand in one spot, and I'm sure you don't either. And they're laughing and they're taking notes. So I was reading my audience and I could tell they were connecting. And then the people who would come up to me after sessions and even people that saw me a period of time later who would go, "Oh my gosh, that workshop you did," or "Oh, I remember that story that you told," because I do a lot of storytelling when I'm in front of folks. But I just felt that connection, and I just said, you know what? I'm showing up as me. I'm showing up very authentically me. I don't think I should change that.
Yeah. I think I should hit a call bell. I actually have a bell in this office every time we use the word authentic in this
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah.
Yeah. And I tell you what, I'm not ashamed to hit that bell. I did get asked on a panel once, mentioned this a few times, where somebody actually, the question to me was, do you think that the word authentic is overused or that, it's overplayed? And I said, I don't think that word can
Mm-mm.
ever be overused.
No.
It's that important. So I'm smiling because I actually opened the show sort of mentioning that, and we've been sort of bouncing it back and forth.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's almost like planning a wedding. If you want to be convinced of what Deidre's telling you, folks, think about the meticulous planning of a wedding or a major event where there's never been one in the history of the human race that went perfectly, and the imperfect parts are the parts that really sweetened up the event, that people remembered, that they wanted to talk about, that let them see, here's that word, how authentic this family or this function or this moment was. So
Right.
it is weird. I wrote an article once called The Pursuit of Imperfection. And I think that there's something here where our instinct is wrong. We shouldn't fear imperfection.
I would agree. And kind of getting back to that expert comparison syndrome, we're oftentimes comparing ourselves to someone who is putting out there, and I'm not saying that some of these folks that are speaking at the laundromat convention aren't great folks, but we're seeing snippets on social media into people's lives, and it typically is a very curated snippet. It's very much what people want us to see. We're not seeing the times that those speakers fumbled on stage or totally forgot what they were saying or they had a slide that messed up. We're seeing the beautiful pictures and the beautifully written stories on LinkedIn or social media. So I agree with you. I feel like more now more than ever, we need to lean into our authenticity. We need to see that people are human because I think with the internet, social media, we're seeing a version of people that they're curating for public consumption.
Yeah, yeah. I also think, and I'd be curious of your opinion on this. My theory is, all right, when I'm coaching people, I'm going to let you obsess on one area of social media. So if you're really loving Instagram and that is your baby, or TikTok or Substack, whichever one you want, LinkedIn for me, then have at it. You don't have to look around at everybody else's because it's always going to be somebody's got double the numbers that you have.
Sure.
But I sometimes think that we dilute it by by trying to chase the shiny penny in every corner. Substack to me is a classic example, Deidre, of so now we're chasing that one. But anyway, that's my theory of at least heavy up in one area
Mhm.
if that's where you want to be.
Yeah, I think that the world is moving so fast. I constantly feel like I am 3 steps behind. I'm like, well, like, oh, Substack. Oh, dang, I'm not even on it. I better do that really fast. Or whatever the latest trend is. I just feel like I'm always behind. People are like, oh, you don't do this? Your consulting firm doesn't do that? And I'm like, oh my gosh. And it almost becomes overwhelming trying to keep up with everything.
Yeah. Here, I'll put a cap on it because I want to talk about this tell me more fascination that you have. But I'm going to put a cap on this and just tell you from my experience, I can tell you, with all those years of speaking, uh, I've never been booked once because somebody said, I saw your post on blah, blah, blah. I get booked because I win the audience, I
Hmm.
win the day, I network, and I fight for gigs.
Yeah.
To me, this is just putting ketchup on the hot dog or mustard. A lot of people have an issue with ketchup on hot dogs, but
Yes.
that's just dressing on the salad. But the
Yeah.
salad is your performance, and there's that word again, and your authenticity when you're stepping
Right.
on that stage.
Agreed. 100%.
Yeah. All right. We put a cap on that one, folks. But Deidre's got this thing about tell me more. All right. Now, I happen to think it's a great open probe, and I use it in sales a lot. But I'm curious. You encourage people to tell me more. How does this maybe stop you from comparing yourself to others, or why that phrase?
Sure. So I've been using that phrase as a leader and as a facilitator for years because, and this, somebody somewhere is going to be listening to this clutching their pearls when I say it. But what I'm going to say is empathy is wonderful, but empathy also becomes kind of a crutch. I feel like you need empathy and curiosity, whether you're leading a team, whether you're facilitating. And so my curiosity comes in the form of tell me more. When I was leading a team, I would have somebody come to me with a problem, with an issue. They were frustrated, they were angry. And I would literally, during our one-on-ones, just very calmly say, tell me more. And then that just opened the floodgates.
Yeah.
And I feel like it almost gives people permission to tell you more than they ever thought. It's 3 little words, tell me more. And I use it in workshops. This has happened to all of us. If you've ever facilitated, somebody will have a comment that maybe you disagree with, or they'll have a comment and you're like, I have no idea what they're even saying right now because they've got something going on in their head that they're trying to get out, but they didn't articulate it well in their question. And I go, tell me more. And that gives them an opportunity to just say what they're feeling, get their question out, get their point out. So I feel like as a leader and as a facilitator, 3 little words, tell me more. I can have empathy, but that gives me the curiosity for people to open up and tell me more to get to the root of their question, their statement, whatever it may be. So yeah, I that has been my secret weapon for years.
All right, well, we'll swap secret weapons. I'm going to throw one back at you. And you ready for this? It's similar
Yes.
to your secret weapon, but instead of 3 words, it's 3 letters. It's even shorter. I learned it. I'm building drum roll, folks, because I'm gonna build this up for a second. I learned it while I was teaching a sales class down in Alabama, And I spent 2 days and I'm teaching them all these probing techniques. And one of the good old boys took me back to the airport and he said, "Man, that was good. All them steps. Look at you." He said, I got my own method. It's only got one step to it." And I said, "What's your method?" He said, "Well, when a customer come in the bank and tell me he got a problem, I just say, and." And sort of took my breath away. I went, "That's brilliant." I said, I don't know if anyone's ever going to know your name, but you just summarized, tell me more. An and is pretty much the same thing. I'm not talking right now. I believe you have more to say on this.
Yep.
So I'm trying to get out of the way. And here's that authenticity again. Here's the question most people won't have. Most people answer it and they'll go, instead of telling me more, they'll go, "I'll tell you more now. I'll tell you about us or what we do, blah, 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 blah." Tell me more, or just the word and just
And
ignites a conversation.
yeah, I use it so much, it's kind of become a joke with my husband because I just had a horrible day. Well, tell me more. And he's like, there you go.
Right. Well, you can sneak up on him tonight. Just say, "And, well, I was, see, you'll come from a different angle. He won't realize you're de him.
Right, right. He'll get detrified.
That's it. Uh, all right. Let's see. How do you if we're not going to use, and I think I know the answer to this one, but if we're not going to use social media as our measuring stick, and boy, I think that's a healthy phrase right in itself,
Hmm.
then how do we measure ourselves uh, other than, and I hear what you're saying, I can look at an audience's eyes and say, "I'm there, we're winning." But I'm always not 100% right. That's my spidey speaking sense. How else do we measure our success?
I'll tell you
Deidre's
how I
thinking
measure
about this
mine.
one.
I
I got
am
her
thinking
thinking on
about it.
this one. Yeah.
You see the wheels turning. For me, I measure my success because I don't want to compete against all these other people that you see out there. Um, I want to compete against myself. And part of that comes from the feedback that I get from clients, from audiences, from my contacts. I often have people do, and as a former trainer yourself, just a simple smile sheet at the end of a workshop. Was this a good use of your time? Did you learn something new today that you didn't know walking in here? Did you learn something that you can put into practice tomorrow? And if I get yeses or mostly yeses across the board, I've done my job. I've done a good job. So I don't want to measure myself based on likes and clicks and followers. Those things are nice. And I do think there's a little bit of a dopamine hit when you open up and people have commented, you open up LinkedIn and people have commented on your post. But it's the people who have trusted me to come in and speak or lead a workshop or coach them, whatever it is that they're trusting me with. If they're happy and if they feel like I've made a difference, that's how I measure my success.
Yeah. Yeah. When I ask a question like that, I'm sort of bouncing it off me as you're speaking, and I'm thinking, because it's a tough question.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'm leaning into what you're saying. I think the word I use a lot of time is implementation, which means boy, I want to entertain you and I want to make you
Yeah.
laugh and I want to inspire you too and motivate you and but if in 6 months you're using this and a lot for a sales trainer, a
Hmm.
lot of times that's going to change those numbers around. That's my reward. That's when I
Yeah.
know I've done a good job. The problem is, from a training world, that is a that's an objective that's what we call that a terminal objective, meaning
Hmm.
we're not going to be able to see that one for a little while. The task
Right.
objective is how do we know today? Well, a feedback form or maybe just reading the reaction of the room, but they go hand in hand. So there's that
Hmm.
short term and long term. But I'm
Right.
with you. I think did you use it? I didn't want to change your life, but did it impact what you do. If it did, we all had a good day.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, social media. Back to social media with you. It, you know, we know that, I guess in a sense it rewards uh visibility. When we
Mhm.
see it, we're like, well, look at that guy. Uh do you think it sometimes gets mistaken for credibility though? So the social media, those numbers of, wow, if you've got, like, let's take LinkedIn, my favorite source. Every time my number goes up, I immediately find somebody who has exactly double the number. Uh, I a lot of times think that must be a very credible person, but I'm not so sure. I think I'm making a mistake there. What do you think?
I would agree with that. Because what I've learned, and sometimes I feel like an old dog learning new tricks, since I've been consulting and working on social media and trying to grow my presence because we feel like we do need to do that. But if someone can write a good hook, if they can write a good post that gets clicks, that gets followers, it means that they wrote a good post. It doesn't necessarily mean they're credible. And I think that's where it starts getting really confusing for folks is there are people that have viral posts. They have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers. But for me, it does, unless I see a video of them or hear them or truly know that they understand what it is that they're out there, they're talking about, for me, it just means that they have either a really good copywriter or they understand how to write in a way that makes people stop scrolling.
Yeah. Yeah, I fell prey to it the other day. We're pretty careful on who we book on this show. Uh, and but I had somebody, a publicist, hit me with somebody said, and I said, social media numbers. Let me see the social media numbers. 300,000, over 300,000 followers on LinkedIn. And I said to the crew here, book her, book her, immediately book her. And but you see what I mean in terms of a wait a minute, I haven't heard one podcast performance. I really don't know anything else about this individual. That's the syndrome that I'm trying to avoid, which is
Right,
that's an how did you get those numbers? Got to be doing something right. But
right.
I don't know if that makes you a great, you know, guest on a podcast or a credible speaker.
I don't know. I don't know truly what the answer is. I know on other platforms, and I see some of these same folks on LinkedIn, on other platforms that I keep an eye on, Instagram, TikTok. Talk about me feeling old is when I hop on TikTok. But you see some of these people who are putting videos out there, and it's they understand how to reach their audience and almost create some type of visceral response to make people click. And I'll be honest, it was interesting. I've had people say, "Oh, you ought to hop on TikTok," and I am on TikTok. But one of the things that I've refused to do, I have refused to give into sort of that anger that a lot of people are getting so many clicks and they're getting followers and the comments because of anger and they're preying on that with people. Um, and I refuse to do that. So
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes these folks who get the followers and they get the clicks, they may not be credible, but they just understand what elicits a reaction out of folks and what
Yeah.
elicits an emotion.
Totally agree. I'll give you a case study of something that I did. I put out, I was looking at LinkedIn. I know well over 1,000 posts of this and that, newsletters, and you name it. And yet, by far, the greatest reaction to anything that Rob Jollis has put on LinkedIn was, and somebody kind of coached me through it, this origin story. You familiar with that term? Kind of
Yeah.
this about me and my life. And it was, I'm like, really? People want to read this? Oh yeah. So I put it out there and I gotta tell you, it lit up. I mean, it was huge. Guy even said, and we're gonna do it every month. I went, first of all, we're never doing that again. Okay, never. And I walked away going, well, I learned something I'm not that happy about. That yes, if I stay away from real content
Hmm.
and go to something sort of like what you're describing, this very personal, emotional, the thing that has nothing to do with business, by the way, I'll probably get a lot of comments and a lot
Right.
of likes. I've been there, done that, saw it work. It was exciting, I guess.
Yeah.
Never want to do that again. You know what? I'm going to tell you how to handle objections in a sales call. And if you don't like it, don't read it. You know, but I have to be
It's,
comfortable with that.
yeah, yeah. I think you have to get comfortable with, for whatever reason, someone not clicking the like or the thumbs up or making a comment. But it's interesting. One of the things that I have found, because we often think, well, if somebody's not responding, if they're not clicking, then I don't know if they like it. I don't know if people are reading it. And it almost is deflating. But I've been fascinated because I've been a lot more active on LinkedIn this year since I went out on my own after leaving corporate. There were posts that I posted on LinkedIn that people would or DM me, sorry, not private message, DM me or send me a text message and say, I know that people from my company would see if I made a comment or I liked this, but I wanted you to know that this resonated with me, but I'm not comfortable publicly acknowledging it. So I think what I'm seeing is people are seeing the messages. They may not always be reacting. And so, like I said earlier, it almost feels like this dopamine hit when someone likes it or they comment. We get all excited, but I'll also take some comfort knowing that even if my numbers aren't high, I'm still reaching people
Yeah.
and it's still making a difference.
I think we have to put that up by our computer screen or something. We're still making a difference. We're still making a
Yeah.
difference. It's not, we don't have to move a massive crowd. All right, I got one and a half more questions for you.
Okay.
This is going to be a tough one, so I'm actually going to give you an example. I'll try because the trainer in me. You know, you mentioned earlier when you used to be a trainer, Rob. I'm still a trainer. I mean, I'm a professional speaker, but and which means I'm on my own and I do a lot of keynotes. But I
Sure.
love doing workshops because that
Me
really
too.
get you back to your roots when you're a speaker. I mean,
Oh,
listen, an hour's nice in front of a few hundred people, but grind it out for 8 hours or 16 hours, and you get more confident with your material and work in a room. So,
I love a workshop. That's where my heart is.
right, right. And it's more intimate. And yeah. All right. So the trainer in me wants to, likes exercise. I like something where somebody can do something and learn. So,
Mhm.
for instance, an exercise that I use that helps people become more aware of whether they're listening or asking questions is actually sort of a deceptive little style exercise. I won't go through it all, but through it, we come in the back door and they're surprised to learn la la la, meaning that one they'll remember rather than me just preaching. We have to ask questions and listen more, folks. Yeah, haven't heard that one in 10 minutes. But so I sort of surprise them. So my question to you is this. Is there an exercise that presenters could use to try and reconnect with their authentic style, with who they are? And maybe we can brainstorm this one if I've really blindsided you with this, but I want to go further than telling them to do it. Is there
Right,
something they can do?
right. What I do a lot, and I've done this for years and years and years. Um, Anytime I'm leading a workshop or speaking, and you have a deck or you have your notes. I rehearse. I rehearse a lot. Walking around the house, cooking dinner, whatever I'm doing, I'm rehearsing. One of the ways that I tap into my authenticity is as I'm rehearsing, and especially if it's an extremely important part of this workshop, of this talk, I try to tie into a personal story. I feel like that has worked for me for decades. I have had people that have come up to me a year, 2 years, 5 years later and go, oh my gosh, I remember that story that you told about your grandmother. I used to work with a guy that was like, I love the stories about your dad that you tell during our workshops. And so for me, it's not just memorizing a script or being able to speak to the slides. It's telling stories that are very authentically my story. whether it's friends, family, something that happened to me, that is a way to tap into your authenticity because people start feeling like they know you a little bit more. People, pe you seem one way on stage or in front of a group, but when you're all of a sudden telling a story about your childhood or someone in your life, it kind of gives people a little more insight into you, and they go, "Oh wow, this is who she is or who he is a little bit more."
I think that's a masterful answer, and I'll tell you why. I'm not just blowing smoke at you. I'm telling you why, because the instinct in these stories is I'm going to tell you a story of how I was the number one rep for Xerox, or how but it's usually a boastful story, and I think that's again our instinct is now the audience will like me even more. But what you
Right.
just described is something a little bit more humble. And it's actually a story
Hmm.
that's going in the opposite direction. And I
Yeah.
completely agree with you, by the way. I would love to tell you I figured it out on my own, but I had somebody watch me and said, "You got a lot of stories up there about how good you are." I'm like, it blindsided me. I just didn't know that I didn't know. So once I became aware of it, even as an author, I almost have a scoreboard in my head of for every time I tell you a story of how I just killed a room and slayed an audience. I'll tell you how I completely butchered an audience and didn't know where I was going because it will make me more authentic and more credible. So
So
I
much more
love the fact you
authentic.
shined the light right there.
Yeah, yeah. I grew up outside of Atlanta on a farm, and I tell a lot of stories about my childhood, about my grandmother, about my parents, and it just people people had been drawn to it for decades.
Yeah. Well, and think about it. I actually wrote a paper when I was at University of Maryland in my senior year about self-disclosure. It wasn't the greatest paper, but the big reveal was if you want people to self-disclose and tell you something that's personal, you need to tell them something that's personal. Because if
Yeah,
it's only coming from one side, it's not safe enough for them to tell you something that's personal. And
right.
that never left me. And in a sense, that's
Hmm.
what we're describing right now.
Hmm.
By doing that, not only do I find you more authentic, I find it safer to tell you, here's what scares me, Dedra.
Right.
And we can't just ask people for that. We got to earn it.
You 100% have to earn it, and giving people that permission to be honest with you because you've been honest. I think that's a huge gift that as trainers, facilitators, speakers that we can give an audience is vulnerability along with authenticity.
Yep. Well, and again, see that instinct versus logic? A lot of speakers, that's why I love the fact we're getting this out here right now, is our instinct is to show the audience how perfect we are and how
Right.
great we are. And now we basically have just proven the fact that go ahead and do that. You're losing the audience. You're pushing them away. You're not bringing them to you. All
Right.
right. I told you one and a half. This is my half. Last question for you. If somebody were going to walk away today with one thing that they just, this is the trainers in us, right? The one thing they're going to walk away with, what would it be? And we don't get to use the last one because that was a great one. But it's hot right now. So
Yeah.
just this self-disclosure piece, folks, we're giving you two. Grab that one and what else you want them to take with them?
Um, I think I want people to understand that they they do have a story, and someone will connect with you even if you don't have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers. You never know if you're going to be the voice or the person that changes somebody's day or the trajectory of their career or their life, and you've just got to put yourself out there.
Yes. Yes, you do. Well said. Love the conversation. We had a pre-call, you and I, and I,
Yeah.
I, I lit up when the moment you came up and said, I think I want to talk about this. I went, boy, do I want to hear about it. Uh, Terrific job. Really appreciate it. How do people get a hold of you?
Well, I they can get a hold of me on LinkedIn, Dedra, Dedra Thompson, Thompson. That is the best way to find me. And I'm unfortunately checking it a lot. So please follow me, message me. Would love to hear from folks.
Good. Yeah, and do that. That's how Deidre and I met. And
Yep.
she does she does pay attention to LinkedIn. I can tell you that. So yeah, follow her. And do we have a book out yet?
I do not.
We got to get
But
that
when
going.
I find some time to write a book, I will.
Yeah.
I'll
Uh-oh.
call you,
Uh-oh.
Rob, for some
Don't get me
tips.
started. We're going to, don't worry, everyone. The moment we sign off, I'll get Dedra on this book. Just let me do that privately. But because we need this, I think you need to explore this deeper. And that's the beauty of a book. So we'll talk about that. In any
Perfect.
case, wonderful meeting you. Terrific conversation.
Yeah.
And I took a couple notes myself on the side because folks, if this is an issue that's affecting me, I got a feeling it's affecting you too. So I think we hit on a good one today. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Well, we'll do it again as well as we can next time, everybody. Until then, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please follow, rate, and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. For more resources and to connect with Rob, visit thepresentationwhisperer.com.